We're asking AI to do all this incredible stuff, right? Write our code, create amazing art, you name it. But once it spits something out, how do we actually know if it did a good job? That's the huge question we're diving into today. How in the world do you grade an AI? I mean, really think about it. If you ask an AI to write a poem about the ocean, what's the right answer? Is there even one? It's not like a math problem where 2 plus 2 is always 4. There's no answer key. And that right there is the fundamental problem with this new wave of creative AI. See, with old school machine learning, things were pretty straightforward. You'd compare the model's guess to a known right answer, the ground truth. But with generative AI, it might come up with a summary or a poem that's totally different from what a human would write, but it's still brilliant. So yeah, we need a totally new playbook for this. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's stop thinking about math tests and start thinking about a cooking competition. Yeah, evaluating a generative AI isn't about checking if it followed a recipe perfectly. Nope, it's about tasting a brand new dish and deciding if it's delicious, if it's original, if it's presented well. And that's exactly why the old grading system just completely falls apart here. If our only measurement is how close is this to the reference recipe, we'd be tossing out some incredible new dishes. You'd end up punishing genius instead of rewarding it, and that would seriously limit what this tech can do. All right, so if we're going to judge our AI chef fairly, we need an official rulebook, right? It turns out any good evaluation, any solid framework, is really built on 3 core principles. Let's break them down. First things first, the ingredients, your test data. I mean, come on, if you're training a chef for a Michelin star restaurant, you're not going to test them with ingredients from a taco truck, are you? Your valuation data has to look like the real-world problems the AI is actually going to solve. If not, you're just confidently running in the wrong direction. Second, you can't just judge the chef. You have to look at the entire kitchen. Because here's the thing, the model itself is rarely the whole show. It's usually part of a much bigger system with tools for grabbing information or other moving parts. You've got to evaluate how the entire system works together, not just the final output. And third, and this might be the most important one, what does good even mean? You have to define it. Before you even start, you literally have to write down the recipe for success. Are you grading on fluency or maybe conciseness, factual accuracy? This wish list becomes your definition of a win that everyone agrees on. So when you see it all laid out like this, it just clicks, doesn't it? The use case tells you what data you need. Those are your ingredients. The context is the full system. That's your entire kitchen. And the criteria are your definition of good. That's the trophy at the end of the competition. If you get these 3 things right, you have a rock-solid foundation. Okay, so we've got our rulebook, the principles are set. Now, who's on the judging panel? In the world of AI, you've basically got 3 main types of judges you can call in. First, you've got your robot taster. This is just using computational metrics, like checking for word overlap. Then you have the gourmet critic. That's us, humans. Human evaluation is still the gold standard for anything that requires nuance. And then there's the really futuristic one, the AI judge, which we call an Autorater. So, how do these judges actually, judge? 2 main ways. Point-wise is like giving a single dish a score from 1 to 5. It's just a straight-up absolute score. Pairwise, on the other hand, is a head-to-head competition. You taste 2 dishes side by side and just pick which one's better. It tells you which one people prefer. And this visual just lays it out perfectly. Up top, you see the point-wise flow. Super simple. 1 prompt, 1 response, 1 score. Boom. But down below, you've got pairwise. 1 prompt goes to 2 different models. You get 2 responses, and then you compare them to see who wins that round. All right, let's zoom in on that 3rd judge, the Autorater, because this is where things get really, really wild. We're talking about using a powerful AI to evaluate the work of another AI. So what is an Autorater? Well, put simply, it's a system where you use one big, powerful, large language model to act as the judge for another AI. You hand it the rules, you hand it the criteria, and you hand it the AI's response, and it comes back with a score, and often the reason behind it. So, why on earth would you do this? Well, the perks are kind of huge. For one, they scale like crazy. You can evaluate massive amounts of data. They're also super flexible. You can customize them for any task. And, of course, they are way, way faster and cheaper than having thousands of humans do the same work. Plus, and this is a big one, they can explain their reasoning. And the way it works under the hood is actually pretty simple. Basically, you bundle everything up, the criteria, the response you're testing, all of it. The Autorater system then turns that into a special, structured prompt for its own internal LLM judge. That judge spits out a score, and the system pulls that out into a nice, clean result. But the real magic, the absolute secret sauce, is all in the prompt. A good Autorater prompt has 3 non-negotiable parts. You need clear instructions telling the model to act as an impartial judge. You need detailed criteria, maybe even a scoring rubric. And finally, you give it the actual data it needs to evaluate. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? An AI judge is incredibly powerful. But just like any judge, human or not, it can have its own biases, its own little tendencies. So the big question is, how do we keep this scorecard fair? And this quote from the source material just nails it. You have to evaluate your evaluator. You have to check your judge. It's this whole process called meta-evaluation, and it's all about making sure your automated judge is actually reliable by checking its work against trusted human judgments. And you've got to be on the lookout for a few common biases that can sneak in. There's position bias, where it just happens to like the first answer it sees. There's verbosity bias, where it thinks longer answers are better even if they're not. And there's even self-enhancement bias, where a judge might give better scores to answers from its own AI family. Now, the good news is we're not helpless here. We can actually correct for these little quirks. Sometimes it's as simple as just swapping the order of the answers you show it. Or you can get more advanced, using a whole jury of different AI judges, or even fine-tuning the judge AI itself to be more impartial. And all of this leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending question. As we keep building smarter and smarter AI judges, we have to constantly check their work, usually against human experts. It's a loop. If an AI judges an AI, who, in the end, judges the last judge? And that challenge, really, is at the absolute core of building AI that's not just powerful, but also responsible and fair.